I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which is that companion planting doesn't need to be complicated. So today I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite pairings of plants together, but you're going to want to stay to the end because I'm going to share with you my little surefire strategy of how to companion plant where you don't have to memorize every single plant and you don't have to go Google it on your phone to see which plants like each other. None of that's going to matter. You're going to want to hear this. So we're going to start out with this bed right here because it has two of my absolute favorites. We're going to start, you got tomatoes or any of the nightshade families, right? Tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, I think eggplant's nightshade, peppers, like all of those style of plants typically have a problem with root knot nematodes, especially down here in Florida. So the one that I really like it to grow right next to is marigolds. Marigolds are a really great companion plant because number one, they have like a strong scent to them, so they deter pests that way. But the way that I really like to use them is using them for root knot nematodes. So we have sandy soil down here. Even in these enriched beds, I still have problems with nematodes. So planting a French marigold specifically will help reduce down the root knot nematodes. And those usually occur right next to these tomato plants. So you're kind of getting a double here. You get the root knot nematode resistance, and you also get like getting rid of some of the smaller pests like spider mites, aphids, all those little tiny pests that seem to bother the tomatoes. Now, in this bed, you saw just one, but there are probably, I think, like 20 plants in this bed. You could do even more. You could wrap marigolds around the entire base of this plant. You could blanket the entire bed in marigolds and then just dig a couple out and put your tomato plants in. You kind of want to go heavy when it comes to deterring root knot nematodes or whenever you're using companion plants. Another one that you're going to see a lot in my garden is right here. Hopefully you can catch that in the frame, and right here, which is onions. So this can be green onions, leeks, garlic, bulbing onions, really anything in the allium family. Now, I like to use these because these are perennial green onions. They're called Florida Finley. But you can do like walking onions, any kind of perennial plant that is in that allium family. Oh, chives. Chives is another good one because they do live a long period of time. You can break them apart and plant them in different places. That's why I love these because I can break these because they multiply. They have multiple onions that shoot from the same rootstock, and then you can break those apart and you can just plant them everywhere. And that's pretty much what I do. When you're walking through my garden, you're going to see a crazy amount of onions. It's not because we eat that many onions, it's because they're like one of the best plants to plant next to other plants, not just tomatoes, but pretty much anything that kind of attracts those pests to the leaves. So not necessarily helpful for, soil pests, but it does help with things like aphids, beetles, cucumber beetles, leaf foot bugs, stink bugs, squash bugs, the squash vine borers. Like, they don't like the scents of these because they give off such a high, awful scent, and it kind of deters them and it confuses them away from your particular plants that you're trying to keep them away from. Based on our last bed where we talked about onions, garlic falls into that family, the allium family, and I have garlic and carrots growing right next to each other. So the garlic deters any kind of pests that are going to feed upon the carrots. And the cool thing about this little relationship that they build here is that the garlic is going to take months to grow and the carrots are about half that time. So these guys are like 9 months, these guys are like 3 or 4 months. And as long as you make sure that there's a little bit of space between your garlic and your carrot to where we can harvest the carrot without bothering the garlic, it's fine. I know that we think of these root crops as having very large root systems, but carrots' root systems grow straight downwards and garlic's root system kind of stays at the top and just bulges out. So there's very little competition between them, on top of the fact that they both like different types of fertilizer. So the carrots really don't want any nitrogen. They really just want like phosphorus and potassium. And the garlic at this particular stage just wants the nitrogen. So when I feed this bed, because this one wants one thing and this one wants another thing, you'd think, oh no, I have to do 2 different fertilizers. Nope, I just use an all-purpose and they just take what they need from it. I try not to get too excessive with my nitrogen because it does inhibit the carrots a little bit. So I mainly try to focus my application onto the garlic, and the carrots just take a little bit of what it needs from the center. So it doesn't have to be complicated, even if they have different nutritional needs. Just kind of focus on feeding one of them, and the other one, who's a little less of a food hog, is just going to take the little bits that it needs. In this bed right here, I have a couple of my favorites. Once again, we have more garlic going on. And then over here, part of the nightshade family is potatoes. But right in front of it, they're still very young, but as they grow, they're gonna really help out as, you know, all three of these combined together, which is the dahlias. The dahlias are gonna bring into some predator insects, some pollinator style insects, which will decrease the amount of beetles and aphids and, you know, flying leaf foot bugs, all of those style bugs from here. And this kind of deters them scent wise. This is going to bring in their enemies, and it kind of protects those potatoes in the back. Now, one challenge that you have to think about is dahlias create tubers. Potatoes create tubers. So I have to usually pick one or the other that I'm going to save. So when it comes time to harvest my white potatoes, I'm probably gonna disrupt or mess up my dahlias, and at that point I'll probably tear them out at the same time, and their tubers won't be large enough or mature enough to be able to be replanted. So I am kind of using them sacrificially. Now, this combination you've probably heard of. It's really, really common to have squashes and beans, and I have beans over here. This is a vining bean. Oh, there's a big lizard right there. There's bush green beans, and then I have my zucchini squash. If you've heard of this one before, it's usually called a Three Sisters, and there's corn involved. I'm not growing corn this year. I'm just like, I need a break from it. It's like one of those plants that just refuses to grow properly for me. So, but I do want to take advantage of the benefits of how these two plants get along. So the squash creates like a bush style, or you can do a vining style, and it creates like a ground cover, where the beans are going to grow taller, and they're going to push nitrogen back into the soil because they are a legume family plant. And so they push nitrogen, which will feed the little bit of nitrogen that the squash needs. And they both basically feed each other and protect each other. This one's going to be covering the soil, keeping it mulch, keeping it like basically cooler for these beans to be able to grow stronger and taller. So this is a fun combination, and you can use beans and peas or cowpeas in any kind of combination of a plant that really needs a little bit of nitrogen. Here's another combination where you see the legume family involved. So I have, these are bush peas. I have other peas over there that just have not wanted to grow for me this season, but the bush peas are growing very well. And so bush peas, cowpeas, green beans, all of those push the nitrogen like we were talking about with the squash. But right next to them, I have cabbages. These are kind of late, and I should get them to head these smaller heads before we start getting into like super summer. It's already hot, but they need a lot of nitrogen. So growing a lot of peas right around them, even though I'm growing a bush pea versus a vining pea, it might be hard to do this with a vining pea, but if you can find a bush style pea like these guys, they stay pretty short and they're not going to block the sun of the cabbage. The other cool thing, I don't know if you can see it very well, but back here, right next to these peas and this cabbage, I have chamomile. And the chamomile, and these are bulbing onions through the center, they are going to help deter the like cabbage moth that particularly likes to come here. I've already got some damage going on. These are probably worms that are creating that. Oh my goodness, yeah. That is worms that is creating those. And I have some aphids down there, but overall, it's not too bad. It would have been a lot worse sitting here by itself. So the peas are gonna feed the cabbages. Hopefully when these guys start flowering, the chamomile starts flowering, it's gonna bring in predatory insects that are gonna come and deter or eat away at these aphids, and then these green onions are gonna try to protect it from like the cabbage moth. So it's kind of like a whole system going on. And if you want to see a chart of some of my favorite companion plants, I have it up on my website. I'll put it up right here, but this is just like my quick companion plant view. I also have blog posts on my website that kind of talk about all the different types of companion plants, whether it's a trap plant, whether it's to deter pests, whether it's to feed soil. So lots of information there. But let's go with super simple, okay? This is the motto that I live by. If my garden is complicated, I'm not going to do it. I don't know if that is you too. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you love doing all the research. But for me, I'm not wanting to memorize all this stuff or go look it up every single time or have some printed reference. I just need something easy. So here's easy. Onions, or anything in the onion family. That's chives, leeks, onions, green onions, bulbing onions, garlic, elephant garlic, all of those. Put them next to anything that gets pests on the top. Flowers. So that's marigolds, dahlias, gophrenia, roses, perennial flowers like salt and peppers. Just anything that creates a bloom or a flower is going to attract pollinators. Pollinators tend to be predatory insects, or they live or coexist with predatory insects. So they will bring in insects to kind of patrol the area. There's other flowers like the chamomile and the marigolds that actually encourage pests to eat them instead, right? Like the root knot nematodes want to eat the marigolds, and aphids want to eat chamomiles more than they want to eat your plants. So just having any kind of flower in the garden is either going to bring in predatory insects or it's going to bring the bugs to the flower. And since we're not eating the flower, that's fine. It's a trap plant. It's a sacrificial plant. So flowers, big ones. In perennial flowers are even better. The next one's going to be herbs. So we're going to have things like parsley, chives, dill, borage, basil. I'm trying to think of them all as I circle my garden to look at them. Any kind of herb is going to put off a scent. Just kind of like the onions, they put off an immense amount of scent. Sometimes they're trap plants. Borage is a pollinator drawer. So they all have different things. The only thing you really have to think about or take into account when you're looking at herbs as a companion plant is whether they are a very aggressive growing herb. And the way to think about this is I really just put them into like two plants. Mint family, so that's also lemon balm, catnip, all the different kinds of mints, and then like oregano. Oregano kind of grows a little aggressively as well. There's still some as well. So like when you get your plant, you may want to like think about that as to whether or not they can go in the garden. But things like parsley, dill, basil, cilantro, like there are so many different kinds of herbs, even if you don't eat them, even if you don't eat them. A lot of them tend to be quite small or very spindly or, compact. Just grab some seeds, guys. You don't even have to like focus on it. You don't have to put it in trays. Just sprinkle some seeds when you plant your plant and then walk away. If you sprinkle some seeds, a good amount, you're likely to get at least 2 or 3 plants if you drop down a whole packet of seeds, even with zero care. That's called broadcasting. So you don't have to like think about this a lot. You don't have to like nurse these plants along. Just toss some seeds in the bed and hope for the best. And then one other one, which I really like, that doesn't kind of fall into any of those groups is going to be radishes. And I know this is going to sound odd because we grow radishes during the winter, but you will see me growing radishes at different times of the year, not for the radish. I honestly don't even like radishes. I don't eat them for that. It's because the radish plant and the radish flowers deter things like squash bugs and squash vine borers and cucumber beetles and different kinds of like really hard to get rid of pests. And so by wrapping some of my squash plants around with radishes or radish plants, I usually get a good outcome with that. I usually can get quite a bit of squash compared to some other folks who have struggled with being able to grow squash. So you can see how easy companion planting can be. It doesn't have to be super complicated. If you can remember onions, herbs, flowers, and radishes, or just onions, herbs, and flowers, or just onions, like literally just pick one and get a packet of seeds and just toss them through your whole yard or your whole garden area, and you're going to see some of the benefits, if not all of the benefits. I rarely get pest issues. Like I do occasionally see a root knot nematode plant give out. I occasionally see a squash plant come out, but most of the time, 90% of my plants are completely unaffected. It doesn't mean that they don't have pests. I want to be really clear about this because I get a lot of questions like how do you keep your garden pest free? I don't. My garden has pests. We saw in the cabbage that there's a little bit of aphids there. but it keeps them under control. And that's what you're looking for, is balance and control. Not necessarily completely eradicate them, because I don't know if that's necessarily shows a healthy garden if you completely eradicate bugs. This is where they live, this is their home. But as long as you can keep the ecosystem balanced enough to where the predators are keeping down the bad bugs and the pollinators are, you know, managing it, and they're doing their thing naturally out here, should be fine. You'll still get a harvest. You won't have to give up much. And don't forget to go check out my website, because I do have, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I have quite a bit of blog posts out there. I've been doing them for a couple of years now with lots of information, even more detailed than what I give in my videos. So check it out. Happy gardening.